keep the movement over the waves, because you can really slam into the waves and stop the boat hard. So I guess everybody, I think we do it slightly differently. But I tend to come up the wave and point the boat up into the wind, and then reach off down not quite reach off, but bear away down the other side of the wave to get more speed coming down, depending on the size of them as well. Sometimes you just have to accept that you're going to slam into a few waves, and it's going to slow you down and potentially stop you dead. I find that I like to sit on the tiller sometimes, or the tiller extension, just so I'm not using too much tiller. And then when it comes to the sort of choppier, more confused sea state, then I start to use a bit more of the tiller to try and keep the boat sailing through and weave through the waves.
Depends whether you're on the Forth or at Scarborough.
Yeah.
It
makes a big difference.
Northerly at Scarborough, then you can actually steer the boat up and down.
Yeah.
Forth's a bit more difficult.
Yeah, because it's a much shorter chop round here than it is on the open sea. Yeah.
So did you say you just sit on the tiller?
Yeah.
Just to keep it in one position?
Yeah.
And then you're not going to kind of...
It's so easy if you've got it in front of you just to be moving around, and you're looking about and you don't really know what's going on, and you're sailing about the ocean, and before you know it, some polite people on the side of the boat haven't actually told you that you're weaving around all over the place. So yeah, I just find that if I clamp it down, then I'm less likely to be weaving around. So I'm concentrating on the telltales, and it's just a case of, whichever bit of wool lifts, then I just drag the tiller extension towards me, and it also helps with a bit of friction there. If you're rubbing it on, up along the side of your leg there, then you don't have as quick a movement. So I'm just trying to do real slow movements, and I guess that was something that we were talking about again Friday night. That was the accuracy there. If you're all over the place, then the boat's going to, the boat can slow down a lot if you're using a lot of the rudder. But there are situations where actually you do need to use the rudder quite a lot, and that's where you've got the confused chop, and you want to try and keep the boat driving through it. So I guess the style and that is something that might differ between different helms.
Were you
and that's
saying
something
that you steer a bit with the main sheet as well, rather than sometimes you're kind of playing the main sheet to steer the boat rather than using the tiller so much?
Definitely bearing away from the windward mark. Absolutely, you need to get the weight up and the mainsail out and the kicker off, or you're going to break the mast. Or it helps you. Are you going to break the tiller? If you got it dragged up around your heel around your ear, you're pulling it in like this to get away around that windward mark to bear away. That can be really slow, especially when you're wanting to be taken off. You've just put the boat through a 90-degree turn with the full on rudder. So if you're able to let the main sail off, that all helps that turn and get the crew weight up as much as possible. Trouble is the crew are all down wanting to launch spinnakers and things like that. But you try and find a compromise somewhere.
Get the main sheet prepped before you get to the mark, so you don't make a cod zero simply letting it out.
Yes. Did you let it completely go, or just as much as you can?
Sorry?
Did you let it completely out of the main?
Not all the way out, no. But I sort of control it. So if I just sort of get to the mark and forgotten all about it, I'll let it go when it's tied around your foot or something, which doesn't really very quick.
Good head.
Andy, in terms of picking a side of the course, in your view, what trumps tide or wind? Where would you? How strong does the tide and the wind have to be to pick which side of the course?
Yeah, it's interesting on that one. I guess it very much depends on where you are and how strong the tide is, and where the top mark is. So there's so many variables that are going through my mind. So I guess try and always get out and do an upwind sail before the start. Try and go up the left hand side, try and go up the right hand side, and get a feel for, is the wind constantly lifting on one tack or knocking me on one tack, and therefore giving us an idea of what's the favourable side to go, and is it constantly lifting every 10 seconds or every 20 boat lengths or whatever it might be. I guess it's about trying to find a trend, and if there's a trend that you settle on that you want to go one way, then that's going to help you make your mind up. But then you could come off the start line and you could be pinned by Stuart, and you've got no option. You've got to go the way that he wants you to go. So sometimes you need to take that into consideration and just accept that you might not actually be able to go the way you want to go, and you may have decided I want to go right, but you're controlled by other
Like
people.
me.
And I'm only I'm only using Stuart because he's done it to me. But no, it's there's so many variables on that one, and I think there's a level of experience from just trying different things and seeing what works, and understanding the benefits. You can probably lose so much more by doing 2 or 3 bad tacks than by thinking the best way to go is to go left or the best way to go is to go right. If you can really lose so much on a bad tack, and if you do 2 or 3 bad tacks to try and get the way you want to go, you could probably lose much more, particularly in some of the course sizes that we've got. When we've been sailing down in Inverkeithing Bay, for example, the courses are quite short, so the fewer manoeuvres you do, then the less you're going to lose. So sometimes the tactics of which way do I want to go is outweighed by either the tide or by the size of the course and where your competitors are as well.
I suppose that's a bit about your style as well, isn't it? If you think that your crew's very practiced at tacking, then you might think, well, this is going to be an advantage, I need to get over there, there's more wind. But if you know that that's one of your weak points, losing speed on tacks, then you might think, weigh it up.
Yeah.
What would your boat, you expect your speed, if you're doing 4.5 knots, what would you expect it to drop to during the tack?
3.5.
Really? So you just drop a knot?
And
So
within how many boat lengths do you think you would pick it back up again?
Oh, crikey. Couple, 2, 3 boat lines.
Yeah, depends.
Mm-hmm.
If it's really light, then you can do roll tack.
Yeah.
If you get the roll tack right, it's not so bad.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Yeah.
And are you a quick tacker, or are you a slow tacker to maintain speed during your tack?
Yeah, the latter.
What's yours?
I tend to go a bit slower and get the crew to help
Right.
roll, as Stuart's saying there as well. Not hanging off the shrouds, because that's not allowed, but certainly trying to roll the boat and coax it over on top of us. And then Dara's sailed with us a couple of times, and he's been my mast man, and he and I are always looking at each other through the tack, and it's a case of, sort of like a nod or whatever, and that's us ready to go up and flatten the boat. So in the lighter stuff, it'll be the two of us that'll go up onto the higher side to flatten the boat. But there's always that sort of communication between the crew, so that everybody knows how long we have to stay down for, and when we're going to flatten the boat. So and the guy at the front can see the guy at the back, and between the two can work out when it's to happen, and then you have a decision maker that's going to call that, so to get all the crew to move at the same time. If you need all the crew to flatten the boat, or if it's just the 2 people that are doing it, then it's I certainly go for the mast man at the bow, and myself when we're doing it.
heaviest.
No, but they
He's
can
already covered
look
it.
at you with a
No, but every time I've sailed with Andy, we always practice. We practice the roll tacks, especially when we're down in Burnham, because the wind's very variable with the tides. It's really important.
I think what's really important, we were talking about this the other day, was that I've sailed with James, for example, for 20 years. So we know how to sail with each other, we know what we're going to do in the boat, we pretty much know without having to say what we're going to do, what it is that we're likely to do on the boat. And having that level of experience with some of the crew, doesn't have to be with all of the crew, but having that level of experience sailing with each other for that length of time, things become natural. But exactly as Dara says, it doesn't matter whether we pick somebody up new from the dockside, or whether we have somebody that sails a 707 from another boat. It's really important to get out there